What's going on, everyone? My name is Chris Ryons, and this is my partner, Mick Jamison, and we are the Noice Guys. This is our motion picture podcast where we're going to be talking about all of our favorite movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Mick, why don't you tell them how we met?
Hi, how you doing, everybody? I am the virgin of the podcasting world right here. I have been a guest on many podcasts. This is my first time actually co-hosting a podcast. So the first time Chris and I met, this was 22 years ago, back in the days before smartphones, back when the internet was just, you had to dial up on the internet. I was
the dial-up sound just played in my head.
I was assistant managing at Suncoast Video, if people can remember what Suncoast Video was back in the day, at the King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania. So Chris came in to interview, and I, of course, had to interview him as an assistant manager. That was part of my job. So I took him out to the front of the mall. My first question as I lit the cigarette was, do you like Star Wars? And I think, what was your reaction to that, Chris? Little did I know that when I was asking, I think Chris said, I knew this was the job for me. So
as soon as he asked that question, I was like, oh, I'm in the right place.
There were no other questions after that. I was just like, do you like Star Wars? And that was it.
Yeah.
He was hired.
He had his mind made up, but I'm like, let's ask the other questions as a formality.
I did know there was no background checks or anything like that. I mean, that was it. It was just like, okay, give me your social security number, and then we'll set up the paycheck and everything like that. And that was it. So since then, we worked together for like about a year. Again, like back then, because we were so much younger back then. I mean, it was so many years ago. A year felt like about 10 years.
Yeah, and 10 good years.
Yes, 10 good years. And, then we went our separate ways. We still talked. I think we talked about, we used to talk about on like AOL Messenger.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, boy.
Back in
AIM. Yeah.
That was basically like, two cans and a string that.
Yeah, compared to what they do nowadays. Jeez.
Compared to now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think it's funny because about about 8 years ago, I think I went on, I was really getting into Facebook and stuff like that, and I was looking for people who I knew, and I think I messaged you, or maybe you messaged me, and I think I probably did like a Star Wars
one
quote.
Or the other, yeah.
You were like, Mick, is this you? And I was like, I responded with like a Star Wars quote, and you were like, yeah! And we've been talking to each other ever since, and, Chris has built his podcast empire. And I've watched from afar, and now I'm trying to just be like a serf in that podcast empire and co-host with him. And we're going to talk about like movies that we enjoy and movie news and all kinds of stuff. So
let me tell you something about when Mick and I worked together, we always had conversations about movies, and we would introduce each other to different movies, and they just become favorites of ours. And we just always had great conversations. So when we started kicking around the idea like a year or so ago to start do a podcast, I was like, this is perfect, because there's so many movies that he and I could talk about. And Mick, listen, he may be a novice at the podcast thing, but he is a journeyman. He can go when it comes to talking about movies. And he and I could just have some really great conversations together. So get ready for that. We're going to be talking about all of our favorite movies.
We are going to introduce each other to when we work together.
Yeah.
Okay, getting back to, I am a virgin to the podcast co-hosting world. As you can see, Chris has his Star Wars collection behind him.
I have my proactive setup. Yeah.
I have my dirt. I have my basement behind me, so I need to work on that. But as we talked about, when we work together, we introduce each other to new movies and new ideas that we both were into, and we're hoping that we can do that with this podcast, and we're hoping we can do it with whoever wants to listen and introduce them to new movies that they may not have seen. Maybe they have seen these movies and they'll just get new new perspectives that we have on them. I mean, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna joke around. We're gonna take the piss out of certain movies, but it's always with love because we love these movies. And it's gonna be a fun time. Hopefully.
And we hope you all will come along with us for the ride as we talk about. Listen, there's going to be great movies that we're going to talk about, and there's going to be some not so great movies that we're going to talk about. But it's all love. We're not going to be bashing anything too much. But we're going to have fun, and we want you all to come along for the ride with us.
And there's probably going to be like Star Wars quotes because I mean, if there's one thing that we're going to be quoting Star Wars because that's how we became friends, and that's how we. I mean, we don't know anything else. I mean,
that's how I speak.
That's what we do. I mean, come on. I mean, seriously. I mean, there is no life without Star Wars. I mean, come on.
No. There's no Nice Guys podcast without Star Wars because if he hadn't asked me that question at the interview, I probably wouldn't have gotten the job. So there's going
to be stories about Suncoast. There's going to be stories about retail. There's going to be stories about the early 2000s. There's going to be stories about probably the 80s and the late 70s as we grew up, and hopefully people who shared those same experiences, and people who just want to know about those many years ago, the dark times, back before the internet, back before Twitter, back before Facebook, back when you had to actually talk to people face to face before you could just say, text me. You will enjoy this podcast.
If you've ever had to rewind a VHS tape, you're going to enjoy this podcast. If you never light clamshell cases, and if you know what I'm talking about when I even say that, you're going to enjoy this podcast.
Clamshell cases. I can feel them in my hands right now as we're talking about them.
We're going to have all kinds of movies. We're talking about action movies, anything, musicals, all that stuff. And we hope you guys will enjoy the ride with us.
The podcast will be coming soon, so make sure you look for us on the Broaxium YouTube feed. Make sure you look for us on Twitter. And make sure you let my family know because they don't know how to go onto Twitter and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So they're not going to be able to follow this. So make sure you let my mom know because she'll be very proud if she sees this kind of stuff on here. But make sure you look for us on Twitter. Make sure you look for us on the Broaxium YouTube feed. The Noice Guys. It's NOICEGUYS. There you go.
At Noice Guys.
Anything that I mess up, I'm gonna just say that I'm new at this. So Chris is gonna take this for a year until after that he's gonna be like, dude, you've been doing this for a year. You should be knowing this now.
No, you'll be fine, Padawan. You're gonna be fine.
See, when I hired him, I was like the Qui-Gon Jinn to his Obi-Wan.
What?
But now with the podcast, I am the Anakin to his Obi-Wan, which means that eventually...
When I left the store, I was about to learn it. I am the master.
Which we did say there was going to be Star Wars stuff. It is going to be very unique. Our first episode, I think, might be... We're bringing it for the first episode. We're not holding anything back. I mean, we're blowing our whole load in the first episode.
All right, so thank you guys, and just make sure you keep up with us on social media, on our Broaxium feed, and we will have the audio versions of our podcast out as well. So make sure you stay tuned. Do people still stay tuned? Is that a thing?
I don't know, but
I'm old.
Subscribe and follow us because if this podcast is the least followed on the Broaxium feed, I'm going to be very, very embarrassed. And the other people on the feed are going to be like, dude, why are you doing this podcast with him? It must be him. So you know what? You have to follow.
That's what they're going to say to him. That's what they're going to say to him about me because I'm screwing everything up. It's all on me. Well, thanks for checking us out, guys, and we hope you'll check us out when the podcast debuts. So, Nice Guys, out.